Welcome to Grave Encounters. I am your host, Lance Preston. Man, we're talking obviously Grave Encounters 2011, and happy Friday to everybody, first of all, which of course means Found Footage Day. And this movie, when this movie came out in 2011, I think this was probably the found footage movie that got me big into found footage. Like, I was never a fan of the Blair Witch Project, the first one. I absolutely adore Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, which is a hugely unpopular opinion. And I never cared for the Paranormal Activity movies either, and those got big in, 2009? The first one came out. Never cared for those, but when this movie came out, I'm almost positive I saw it in theaters. Like, I'm 99.9% sure I saw this in theaters. It was 2011. I had to have, because I was working in a movie theater in 2011. So there's no reason I didn't see it in theaters. I'm almost 100% I did. I don't remember it, but I definitely saw this in theaters. And yeah, when I first saw this movie, man, this was like the movie in this genre, the subgenre of horror, that made me say to myself, this actually has potential. Like, this whole little subgenre of found footage that was starting to hugely take off after the Paranormal Activity franchise started. And it's directed by the Vicious Brothers, which, if you're gonna put your name as directors on a movie, use a real fucking name. Come on. It reminds every time I see their names when I watch this movie. And I've seen this movie dozens of times. I love this movie. And every time I see it, I can't help think of the great George Carlin, my favorite comedian of all time, and his little skit on people who ought to be killed. And he starts going on about people with one fucking name, like Cher and Bono. And he's like, it's bad enough the music sucks. He's like, you can't find out their last name to find out where they live to throw a fucking bomb through their window. So great. Classic Carlin. I love him so much. And we have starring Sean Rogerson as the Lance Preston. I absolutely love Lance Preston's character in this movie. What a great character, man. Just with the whole fake paranormal investigator show, and he just has this charisma to him and charm to him. And they mentioned at the very beginning that they have like the producer showing they're still going with the whole Blair Witch thing and stuff, saying like, this is not a movie what you're about to see, excuse me, and that this is like 76 plus hours of footage that's been edited down just for time. It's okay, well, we've heard this already with the Blair Witch and a million other found footage movies since. But we end up, Grave Encounters is a TV show that Lance Preston hosts with his other crew members, Sasha, TC, Matt, and Houston, the psychic guys. Yeah, I remember all their names for this movie, even before rewatching it. There's such memorable characters. I love almost all the characters in this movie. They all do a decent to good to great job acting in this movie, especially for found footage. And I mean, Lance steals the show. I mean, his character is just so great, and Rogerson does such a good job portraying his character in this movie. But they are working on their 6th episode of Grave Encounters, which is like one of those ghost paranormal investigative shows that go to haunted locations or supposedly haunted locations and stay overnight and do a bunch of paranormal tests and everything to try to find any activity of the supernatural and stuff there. So they go to this mental asylum for their 6th episode that never got to air, and this is the footage we're seeing of why it didn't air. And it was condemned in 1963 and was reported haunted ever since then. And Lance and his crew end up having themselves locked in by the caretaker, Kenny, overnight for 8 hours, all during nighttime, to investigate this supposedly haunted asylum. And we get some interviews with like the town historian, and he gives like a little background on the asylum about this guy, this doctor Arthur Friedkin, who was like a big supporter of the lobotomy and like performed like over 100 and something lobotomies during his time there, until 6 escaped patients ended up murdering him basically right in his office. So these people escaped and just completely murdered this doctor, which, I mean, hey, if you're going to be lobotomizing hundreds of people in your hospital, you gotta kind of always keep it in the back of your mind. If any of these psychotic people escape, they're probably not going to be too happy with you. So I can definitely see that as justified if you're looking at it from the patient's point of view. And we get an interview with the caretaker, Kenny, who's the one who locks them in for the night. And I love how awkward he is on camera. Like how he says to Lance, like, he's like, I've never done this. Like, should I look at you or the camera? And, you know, just look at me and stuff. He's just like real awkward during his interviews and stuff. I like the character of Kenny. And he starts showing around like different hot spots in the asylum, like the window that he says he locks nice and tightly shut every night, and then he'll come in the morning and it'll be wide open, like something's trying to get out, and shows him a room with creepy as shit, man, with his actual patient in the past that wrote in like black crayon or marker or something, like all over the walls, like covering the walls with writing and stuff, which is creepy in its own right. And tells him about a patient who slit her wrists in the bathtub and killed herself in the bathtub. Like, well, and these become all paranormal hotspots that they keep cameras on throughout the movie. And we get some more interviews, like with a contractor who had like an accident with one of his crew members. It got pushed off a ladder, and the interview with like this young couple who were making out and like hung out there one night and saw like a specter like in a hospital gown like down the hallway from them. So we get a lot of cool interviews, and we get my favorite interview in this movie with the gardener, the caretaker. It's like the funniest scene in the movie, man, because there's not a lot of comedy in this. Like, this is pretty much straight horror. And once they get into that asylum, like, there's some funny lines here and there, but this is hysterical to me. Like, they're talking, and Lance is there interviewing the caretaker, the gardener, and he's like this like Mexican guy, and he's like, I'm here with resident caretaker Javier Ortega, and it's like, Javier, have you ever seen any like weird or ghostly apparitions or anything around the outside of this building? And he's just like confused. He's like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, I just start working here. And then they cut it. He's like, let's cut it. And he's like, yeah, the TC, he's like, you got any petty cash left? And he's like, how about $20? And he hands it to him. He's like, just make something up for the camera. Which I love how in the beginning of this movie, how they show and portray like all those like ghost shows and everything, how bullshit it all is, and just like camera tricks and just like with interviews with people, and just make shit up, fucking it doesn't matter. And like how Lance has that line when he says just like film anything and like put some creepy music behind it and slow-mo, and anything is creepy. And he's right, man. It's just a picture of a cute little cat like walking, and just slow it down and put some like shadows around it and just put some creepy music, and that cat will look fucking creepy as shit to you. Like, he ain't wrong. It gives the guy $20, and he re-interviews him, and he's like, I'm here with resident caretaker Javier Ortega, who's been working here for the past 10 years. That's so hysterical. He's like, have you ever seen anything suspicious or ghostly or supernatural on the outside of this building? And he's like, and his answer is so hysterical, but he's like, yeah, I see ghosts right over there. It was a really scary. And then he just like stares off into the distance. I crack up every time I see this scene in this movie. It's so funny. And then we get the whole psychic routine with Houston, the psychic guy, the pretend psychic, and his whole bullshit put on, his whole act he puts on and everything and stuff. And then as soon as they cut it, they just start laughing to each other. And he's like, was that too much? Like, come on, tell me. Was that, no, that's good. That looks good. That sounded real and everything. Like, just like hammering in like how bullshit all these shows are and everything, until obviously it stops being bullshit and starts being actually real. Now, the whole mental asylum setting, like I said in Hell House LLC, in the first one that I reviewed, that the hotel might be one of my favorite settings in a found footage film. The asylum in this movie also, and even more so, might be my favorite setting ever in a found footage movie. Like, I don't get scared by horror movies. Like, even since I was a little kid watching, Friday the 13th and Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and how I got into horror in the first place. Like, nothing scares me in a horror movie. But I always try to put myself in the character's shoes and, like, just try to envision, like, what they're seeing and going through. And I can say to myself, like, all right, that's fucking terrifying, or this shit is fucking intense, or scary as shit, or whatever they're going through. And this movie plays on, like, 3 of my biggest fears, which is being in a place that you cannot get out of, against your will. Like, a mental institution is a perfect example, or a prison, or anything like that you're held against your will and cannot get out. And being lost in a place that you are not familiar with, because being lost is at the least very infuriating, and at the most can be scary as shit. Like, it depends where you're lost. And the third thing, and probably my biggest fear, is just complete loss of reality. Just completely losing touch with reality. And this film touches all those subjects together and weaves them together into... It's terrifying to me. Like, it's really terrifying, the situation that these people are in and what happens to them. Like, putting myself in their shoes, I could not imagine. Like, I would be so fucking terrified in this situation. Just being in a mental institution that goes back like 100-something years from when it was built, with thousands of insane people being lobotomized and just treated like shit, and just total insanity every day, all day, happening at this place. And then it being condemned, and then reportings of hauntings. It's like, you could not pay me to go inside this asylum, let alone have myself locked inside by some dude, the caretaker, or anybody, and rely on him to come and unlock us out in the morning. There's no way. You can pay me all the money in the world. I would not do it. Could not do it. You can pay me $1 million. I would flat out deny it. Like, I'm skeptic on paranormal stuff to an extent. Like, aliens, I believe in that shit. I've said this on the channel, I think, before. Aliens, I 100% believe. I 100% believe in aliens. I believe that they have visited this planet. I believe that they are on this planet. But when it comes to ghosts and hauntings and stuff like that, I am skeptical to a degree. Like, I'm the type of skeptic who will be like, yeah, sure, okay, that happened, but alright, so you go in there and check it out. I'm like, I'm fucking going in there. just in case the shit is real. I'm not fucking going in there. And it's like, even back when I was a kid, like when they used to have the Bloody Mary game and everything, and people would be like, oh, well, you gotta say Bloody Mary in the mirror 5 times in the dark, and she's supposed to come out and kill you and stuff. And then, like, I'd be like, oh, it's such bullshit, come on. Like, it's taken from Candyman, the movie, and blah, blah, blah. But it might have even dated back before that. I'm sure it did. That whole legend of Bloody Mary. And... but as soon as a friend of mine would say, all right, then you go in and do it, I said, there's no fucking way I'm going in there and doing that, just in case. Who knows if it is real? Like that's the type of skeptic I am. Like, I'm skeptical to a degree, but like, tell me to go do that shit, or like go into a mental asylum that's been abandoned, there's no fucking way. Are you kidding me? So they're locked in here to film their episode by the caretaker, and he's supposed to come let them out at like 6 in the morning. So they're spending all night in here. And TC, one of the camera guys, says that makes a comment that he has his tools and like equipment in the car or in the van or something like that, and why would they have like lock us in, like actually lock them in? They could have just said they were locked in for the TV show, which, good fucking point. Yeah, they could have just said we're locked in here. There was no need to actually have this guy lock them in this building. But he makes a comment about his equipment being in the van, his tools. He knows they're going to be in here all night. He didn't think to grab his tools when they were unloading the rest of the equipment and bring all this shit into the building. Like, that makes no sense. That's kind of stupid. But I love all the characters in this movie. I love Sasha. I love TC. I really like Houston, the pretend psychic. Matt's like the only one I really don't care for. He does an alright job, but definitely overshadowed by everyone else, especially Lance. And like I said, I really like the distinct hotspots in this movie, like the window room that the guy said is always open in the morning, and the room with the patients writing on the walls, and the bathtub room, and the tunnels underneath the building that supposedly connect to like a whole bunch of other buildings on like, I think he said there's like 80 acres of property. It's a big fucking property, man. And those are long ass tunnels that you do not want to be in the dark. And when they're first being showed around and stuff, like, why are they so surprised that there's rats in the tunnels underground underneath this mental asylum that's been like fucking abandoned and like sealed up and shit for like 50 plus years? That's fucking stupid. It's like they open the door and they see rats, and like Lance freaks the fuck out, like he's never seen a rat before, or doesn't expect to see rats in a building like this, especially tunnels that are underground below it. That's just weird to me. Like that's just a little nitpick. There's not, after rewatching this for like the who knows how many times, dozens of times, I really can't, and you guys know I pick apart stupid shit all the time in my reviews and stuff. There's not much I can pick apart in this movie. Like, I adore this movie so much. And yeah, like, there's just not much I can pick apart about this. Like, they did very, very well with pretty much everything in this movie. The atmosphere in this movie, top notch. Like really, really top notch. They went above and beyond with the atmosphere, especially for a found footage movie. Like through the cameras and everything, the night vision on the cameras, but just the whole setting. Like I said, this might be like close to, if not my favorite setting for a found footage movie. This asylum is so fucking creepy. It is so eerie. It is so unsettling. It's just, and then when everything starts happening as the movie goes on, I could never, like I said, you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to go in there. And I love the pacing of this movie, how it goes from, like I said, like in the beginning, like the bullshit TV show, paranormal investigator, ghost hunter show, and how it just slowly evolves into actual real hauntings and real shit happening to this team of investigators. Very well done. And like we have the door that slams on TC, like the first few things that happen to them, like the door that slams behind TC to get it on camera, and Sasha's hair getting pulled up and stuff like that by a ghost behind her and everything that they catch on film. Like that's a cool shot, like with her hair being pulled up, and we've seen that many times since, but I don't recall seeing it that often before this movie. I'm sure there's a bunch of other movies that have done it, but I think that's a great shot. And then we get like the pictures that Lance is taking with the camera, and we see like specters and stuff, and we see like one of those shots with the window, and there's like handprints on the windows and stuff. Those are cool pictures. Then they all get ready for Kenny, the caretaker, to come and let them out, and Matt goes to collect all his cameras. He's like the camera technician and everything, and Sasha, even though after experiencing her hair being pulled off her head by some unseen ghost or specter or whatever you want to call it, says like, you know, it's pitch black out there, and Matt could have easily fallen and hurt himself. Like, so I know it's a terrible idea, but we have to go back and look for him. And TC is having none of this. Like TC throughout this whole movie has the most common sense out of any of these people. Lance just wants to keep making his TV show, and then as it goes on, he just wants to document everything in case they don't get out of there, which they don't. But TC is just, from the beginning, like he's just like not down for this, and as it's like it keeps getting a little crazier and crazier, he's just flipping out the most, man. And I relate with him 1000%. I'd be completely on TC's side, and it's so good to see rewatch another movie with the name TC that is actually an enjoyable character. And if you guys have watched previous reviews of mine, you know what I'm talking about. So they go down to check. They go around to check for Matt to see if they can find him. They find his gear like all over the place and say that he wouldn't just leave his shit like that. And then we have TC gets pushed down the stairs by a ghost or specter, whatever you want to call it. I'm just gonna keep saying ghost. And he falls and almost breaks his neck. Falls down the stairs after he's been pushed. So now they're getting violent, or as Lance Preston says at the beginning, an intelligent haunting, where they can actually push or shove or even throw across the room people, opposed to what is it, residual haunting, where it's like a echo from the past, like when you just see like an apparition or something like that, like reliving its past, kind of like it's stuck in a loop. Which is cool how they like, and then like with Matt earlier when they're explaining all the different equipment and stuff, like the EVP and like the tape recorder they use to like take EMPs and stuff like that, like all the different equipment they use. It's cool how like how they're like showing how all these like ghost hunter shows and everything, paranormal investigator shows, like go about doing what they do and faking what they do and everything. Now, this scene in the movie is when this movie went from just a good, decent found footage movie for me when I first saw it to absolutely great found footage movie for me. And it's when they're not waiting for Kenny. TC says to Preston to just call Kenny and the cell phone doesn't work or whatever. And he just says, fuck it, I'm just going to knock the door down. And they're in the lobby that they came in and they get a cart and they just start breaking the door, trying to break it down. And then they finally break it down. And that's the entrance. And it is no longer the entrance. And it's just another long hallway. That's terrifying. Like, that's fucking scary shit, man. Like, can you imagine? That's like going like your old like elementary school or middle school and like you know where the fucking front door is. And you go in there at night and you're partying or something and then you go to leave out the front door and it's locked and you break it open and you're not outside. It's just more hallways and shit. That's fucking terrifying. Like, to me, that's fucking really fucking crazy. Like, I could not imagine that. And then they check the back of the door and it says death awaits on it, which it said when they first got to the front door or when they first went into the asylum. That's creepy as shit, man. And like how time keeps distorting and how they mentioned that it's like 8:30 a.m. and Kenny was supposed to be there at 6 to let them out. It's 8:30 and Lance mentions that he checked the sunrise times for that morning and that the sun should have been up at 7:45 and it's still nighttime out. Like, so time's starting to distort and everything. Like I said, that's one of my biggest fears, man, is just total loss of reality like that and just reality distorting all around you. That's fucking so scary, dude. That is some really mind-bending, fucky shit, man. Like, I can't imagine. And all the food starts getting moldy and everything like that. And, like, all they have is water left to drink. They have no food. All the food is rotten and moldy in the cooler. Like, so it's like time is speeding up. Like, and at the same time, it's like you're seeing things like from the past too, like through the specters and some ghosts and stuff like that. Like, awesome. Like I said, the atmosphere in this movie is just excellent. Like, excellently done. Like, I cannot praise the Vicious Brothers enough for the atmosphere that they created with this movie. Like, so well done. Like, I absolutely love it. And then they go, and like how the structure is basically changing all around them of this asylum, like as they try to find their way out. And they go up to like the roof access, and there's a sign that says roof access, and they go up there and it's just a sealed solid wall and everything. There's no roof door. That's fucking scary, man. Can you imagine? You can't get out of this place. And like they say earlier, Lance says, like, this is built like a prison. It's a mental asylum. Like, there are bars on all the windows. Like, we could not get out if we wanted to. And that comes back into play to bite them in the ass later on, man. I mean, that's some scary shit. And we get some cool shots with like the bed levitating and stuff in front of the camera, and we see the hello carved on Sasha's back. Like, great stuff. Like, some great effects in this movie. And like, then we have like the CGI ghosts and stuff. I mean, they're decent. I mean, it's found footage, and of course it's going to be CGI, most of it. Honestly, in my opinion, this movie didn't even need the ghosts. Like, it did not need the CGI ghosts at all. Like, the just invisible shit happening, like Sasha's hair being pulled up, and like Houston when he gets thrown and killed by like some unseen force and everything, like, that's fine. But like the actual ghosts themselves, like the girl in the corner and she turns around and her face elongates and shit into the CG and everything, unneeded, man. Like, it really is. Like, just the whole premise alone of being stuck in this mental asylum and everything is distorting around you, including reality, and the whole location and everything, is fine enough. Like, that would have been plenty to carry this movie to the end. Like, the CGI ghosts and everything like that, that's just a little added creep factor that they threw in. They easily could have left that out. Like with the Descent, which I will be reviewing very soon, because I had somebody who mentioned that they really like those movies, the two of them, and I really love the first Descent. Second one's alright, but it's like the Descent, how like they didn't even need the monsters in that movie. Just being lost in an undiscovered cave system after the entrance crumbles and fucking caves in behind you, and you're lost in the fucking pitch dark in a dangerous ass cave system. That's scary enough, man. And then add in the bat fucking creature monsters and shit, like, unneeded, in my opinion. Like, it would have been scary as shit without any of that. So that's how I feel with this movie too. It reminds me of that. It's like, we didn't need the CGI ghosts. Like, this movie was great without them, 100%. I really liked the when they wake up, they have hospital wristbands on with their names on it. That's a really cool touch. That's a great touch that they added with that. Imagine like you waking up in there and stuff, and now you're like a patient and you have your fucking hospital ID badge on. It's got your names on it. Like, fucking creepy shit, man. I love the reasons, because we've seen in so many found footage movies and always scream at the fucking at the screen saying, why are you still filming? Like, stop fucking filming, put the camera down. But like, the reasons that they keep filming, and it's just Lance keeps saying, like, I want to document all this because people are going to want to see this, which is true. Still not 100% reason to not stop filming. But they're in this pitch black mental asylum, and they need the cameras with the night vision to see. So I thought that was a very clever way of addressing the camera issues of constantly filming and stuff. Because like they even say earlier in the film and stuff, when they're in the daytime, when they're being showed around by Kenny, saying that it's so dark in these hallways, and he's like, yeah, it's daytime. He's like, when it's nighttime, like, it's gonna be real dark. You're not gonna be able to see anything. And just the fact of them using their cameras for night vision to see where they're going and stuff is a great, way to address the not stop filming thing, which we see in so many found footage movies. And we had a cool shot when TC gets pulled into the bathtub that the girl killed herself in, and like it's filled with blood, and TC goes to check it out, and he gets just pulled in there by the ghost, and they go to tip it over. They put the camera down so you don't see anything after that, but you hear them screaming and stuff, and then they say tip the tub over, and so, and then they tip it over, and then the camera just picks up like the blood that like splashes in front of the camera and stuff. That's a really cool shot too. Is it just me, or is it when Lance finds the severed tongue on the floor and blood's dripping, and then he looks up and there's a ghost up there? It looks just like Sid Haig. It looks just like Captain Spaulding. Like the face of this ghost, like the shape of his head and everything. Every time I see this, I'd be like, that looks like Captain Spaulding up there. Like, I guess he has a side job besides being part of the murderous Firefly clan. It's being a ghost at this mental institution. And then Lance and Sasha are the only ones left, and they find their way down to the tunnels. And I like when they're like falling asleep and stuff. They're taking a nap, and that's another thing, like sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation on its own, after just a day or two, can make you start hallucinating heavily. So imagine the sleep deprivation these people are going through, because we don't know how long they're in there. Like, they say at the beginning, he said, what, it was 76 plus hours of footage? So that's a few days that they're in this place. So imagine the sleep deprivation. They take naps here and there, but how much can you really nap being in that situation? So you have sleep deprivation on top of time distortion and reality bending craziness happening all over you. No food, just water. Dude, the mind state these people must be in by the end of this movie is unfathomable, like absolutely crazy. And I love when they're resting on each other and they're taking a nap, and like the mist comes in and then Sasha just evaporates into nothing and disappears. That's a cool shot too. And then you just see Lance start diving into insanity, man. And again, his performance in this movie is great. Like, I love the character of Lance Preston. He does such a great job in this movie. Like I said, the other actors do a good job. Matt's alright, but like, he just steals the whole fucking show. And especially in the ending, when he's just diving into total insanity, and he starts killing the rat on the ground and eating it for food and everything, and he's laughing into the camera and stuff while he's filming himself and like screaming, "Come and get me!" And what a great performance, man! Especially as I always say in found footage movies, for a found footage movie, like great performance. And he ends up finding himself in Dr. Friedkin's office, the lobotomizing crazy doctor that was killed by the patients that we find out about early in the movie with an interview with the like town historian or whatever. And he gets lobotomized. And then he has his little farewell to the camera saying, "I'm all better now." And it says, "For Grave Encounters, this is Lance Preston signing off." So what a great found footage movie. This is probably in my top 3. If not, like, this might be my favorite found footage movie ever. Like, it is such a great movie. It has such great atmosphere. It deals with such creepy, like, just, like I said, like, it just plays on a lot of my biggest fears in a way, too. That just makes this movie so much higher on the list than most other found footage movies. So this is absolutely my top 3 found footage, if not my favorite. But the sequel, I haven't seen the sequel in years, but I mean, it's alright, but it's nowhere near the first one at all. Like, I remember it being decent. That's pretty much it. I mean, we get Lance Preston in it again, but all like disheveled and insane and stuff. But I remember disliking the main character. I want to say Alex is his name, I think. But I'll be even watching that now, and then we will be talking about the sequel, Grave Encounters 2, in a little bit. And then I'm going to probably do 1 or 2 more by the end of the night. And I got a birthday party with cousins and stuff like that tomorrow morning. But I'm going to try to knock out like a random movie or something tomorrow morning. But I will see you soon with Grave Encounters 2, and for JT's Horror Reviews, this is your host, Justin, signing off.